4 Nepalese among 25 killed in a fire at an Indian nightclub in tourist resort region of Goa. Electrical firecrackers believed to have sparked the blaze. Nepal's Election Commission allocates election symbols to political parties for March 5 election, 107 symbols to be used. 17th National Human Rights Magna Meet commences in Nepal's federal capital Kathmandu, aims to reinforce commitments to Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Thousands of civilians along Thailand-Cambodia border flee amid escalating violence in the most serious confrontation between the two nations in recent time. And Real Madrid falls to a shock defeat against Celta Vigo in La Liga. Real now 4 points behind leaders Barcelona. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World Primetime News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. And now the news in detail. 4 Nepali citizens were among the 25 people killed in a fire at an Indian nightclub in the tourist resort region of Goa a day after the blaze. Nepal's ambassador, Shankar P. Sharma, said in a statement that he was deeply saddened by the Goa fire tragedy in which 25 people lost their lives yesterday, including 4 Nepali nationals. The rest of the dead were Indian citizens, mainly the nightclub staff, as well as holidaymakers from New Delhi. The blaze broke out at a club in Arpura in the north of the coastal state, with officials reporting that electrical firecrackers had sparked the blaze. Most people died due to suffocation in the basement and kitchen area after wooden parts of the club caught fire. Goa's Chief Minister Pramod Sawant on Sunday said that 4 people had been arrested and had ordered checks on other nightclubs in the former Portuguese colony. Fires are common in India due to poor building practices, overcrowding and a lack of adherence to safety regulations. Now, South Asia marks a major milestone today as the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, celebrates its 41st Charter Day. Today, renewed attention is being drawn to the organization's founding vision and mission, even as the regional bloc faces a decade-long halt in its highest-level engagements. SAARC, established in 1985 to promote peace, prosperity and regional cooperation, continues to emphasize its mission of enhancing the welfare of the peoples of South Asia, strengthening collective self-reliance and tackling shared challenges such as poverty, climate change and underdevelopment. However, despite these aspirations, the organization has not convened a SAARC summit since 2014 when leaders last gathered in Kathmandu. The 2016 summit scheduled in Islamabad was cancelled and no subsequent summit has been held, underscoring the political tensions that have slowed regional integration. Now, in an exclusive conversation with the SAARC Secretary General Gholam Sarwar, Secretary General of SAARC, we explored the organization's current relevance and the road ahead. The Secretary General acknowledged the prolonged summit gap, but stressed that SAARC's technical mechanisms and sectoral bodies continue to function, delivering cooperation in areas such as climate resilience, agriculture, education, and women's empowerment.
Charter envisioned cooperation almost unburdened by bilateral disputes. Yet, geopolitical tensions have very visibly constrained SAARC's collective potential. Do you think the Charter still reflects the region's political and economic realities, or is it time to reimagine SAARC's foundational assumption?
Thank you. This is a very important question I face everywhere, and this is a difficult question to answer also, because actually over the last 2 years I have given a lot of thoughts about this issue, that is this charter self-contained or it needs some kind of new reflections to be put into. I actually found that this charter had been drafted very well. I mean, given all the geopolitical reality and the reality on the ground in our region, I think there cannot be any better better, say, foundational instrument in South Asia. Now the point is whether we are following in true sense the commitments and the desires that we have made 40 years ago. That is a question you can always ask anyone, in the SAARC or in the region. But as far as the charter is concerned, I think, yes, there is always room for improvement with the change of times. We can bring some new elements in the, say, our terms of reference and how we can achieve the chartered goal. That can be also looked at. But I don't see much problem with the charter. It's the issue of our commitment.
In every SAARC conversation, Your Excellency, India-Pakistan tensions are the silent elephant in the room, right? So as a Secretary General of this entity, how do you engineer institutional momentum in a space where political constraints routinely overshadow regional consensus?
Thank you. Actually, after my took over, I have been to all the countries of the region, except Afghanistan, of course, due to the situation there, I could not go. But in each and every individual countries, the leadership and the civil society, the high officials I met, I received the similar kind of commitment to the SAARC process, and similar kind of expectation they are still holding. I'm sure the good time will come. Although, as you say, have raised about the tension between two member countries, I think besides all these bilateral issues, we can still go ahead. It is up to our leadership to decide when to go ahead. They are also quite, I must say that, quite competent in their position, having a lot of experience, and they know when to give us a signal to go ahead.
Is SAARC structurally dependent on political harmony, or rather than designed to manage conflict?
No, rather I should say that it is designed. It is also, there is inbuilt design in the SAARC Charter to manage the conflict. Like if we have, say, bilateral differences between two countries, they may not be able to sit bilaterally. But there is a scope under the SAARC to sit regularly, to discuss in the sideline about the contentious bilateral issues and come to a common ground. I think SAARC is offering excellent forum for even discuss about the difficult bilateral issues and come to a conclusion.
The Election Commission has allocated election symbols to political parties that have registered for the House of Representatives election slated for March 5, 2026. 120 political parties had applied to participate in the lower house elections. According to the Commission's spokesperson, Naren Prasad Bhattarai, 102 political parties have been provided with separate election symbols. A joint election symbol has been provided to 12 political parties which applied to jointly participate in the polls. On this basis, the Commission has stated that a total of 107 election symbols have been provided. A total of 143 political parties are registered with the Commission. The number of parties participating in the election is 114. A total of 107 election symbols will be used for the election. We'll take a short break here. More news coming up. You're watching NTV World. Welcome back to Primetime News. The 17th National Human Rights Magna Meet commenced in Nepal's federal capital, Kathmandu, today. The meet, coordinated by Women for Human Rights, Single Women's Group, in collaboration with 125 human rights and social justice organizations. The week-long event aims to bring together diverse stakeholders to discuss a wide range of human rights issues. Coordinator Sova BC said, the meet was designed to ensure broad participation and meaningful dialogue on the challenges facing the human rights sector. The Magna Meet aims to reinforce national commitment to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights through localized action and collective engagement. Meanwhile, speaking at the 17th National Human Rights Magna Meet, Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal has reaffirmed that the government is fully committed to protecting human rights and strengthening democratic institutions. He stressed that human rights are the backbone of democratic society and that the current administration is prioritizing policy reforms to deliver a corruption-free and accountable governance system.
सुशासनभित्र कानुनी राज्य पहिलो शर्त हो। त्यसकारणले कानुनी राज्यको बहाली गर्छौं हामीले दण्डहीनता पनि हुन दिदैनौं। यसमा यहाँहरु सबैले सहयोग गर्नुहुन्छ। खास गरेर अहिले मेरो गृहमन्त्रीको हैसियतले मेरो अपेक्षा के छ भने नागरिक समाज अलि बोल्दिनु पर्यो। नागरिक समाज भनेको यो समाजको कन्साइन्स किपर हो। अहिले कन्साइन्स किपरहरु अलि ओझेलमा पर्नु भएको छ। जतासुकै हेर्दाखेरि पनि मिस इन्फर्मेसन, डिसइन्फर्मेसन, माल इन्फर्मेसनहरु हाबी छ। यसमा चाहिँ नागरिक समाज जो एउटा कन्साइन्स किपरको रूपमा आफूलाई पुष्टि गरिसक्नु भएको छ, उहाँहरु बोल्दिँदाखेरि सरकारलाई पनि सजिलो हुन्छ।
A three-day international learning conference on dignified menstruation kicked off today in Nepal's federal capital, Kathmandu, bringing together experts, activists, policymakers and representatives from around the world to advance the global movement for menstrual dignity. Held under the theme Dignified Menstruation, Reclaim Inherent Dignity, Equity and Inalienable Rights, the conference has drawn participants from a wide range of countries including Benin, Bhutan, Bulgaria, Cameroon, Congo, France, Germany, Guinea, India, Italy, Mexico, Nepal, Nigeria, Pakistan, Spain, Togo and the United States of America. The event highlights the persistent global challenge of menstrual discrimination, which has long contributed to unequal power relations, harmful gender norms, and barriers to education, mobility, and health for millions of women and girls. The three-day gathering will conclude with the adoption of a Kathmandu Declaration on dignified menstruation, outlining commitments and strategies to strengthen menstrual dignity as a fundamental human right. Moving on, Nepal's Prime Minister Sushila Karki, the country's first female head of government, has issued a strong global call to end menstrual discrimination, describing it as a persistent and harmful form of gender-based violence. Speaking on Dignified Menstruation Day, which coincides with the International 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, Prime Minister Karki emphasized that menstruation is a natural biological process and a state of respect, yet continues to be burdened with silence, stigma, shyness, shame and discrimination across societies. Prime Minister Karki's remarks come at a time when global movements are increasingly spotlighting menstrual health as an essential component of public health, education, gender equality and human rights, calling for the dismantling of taboos and structural barriers that affect millions of menstruators across the world. Security has been significantly tightened along several Nepal-India border points in Sudur Pashchim province following concerns over potential illegal entries into Nepal. Authorities have increased vigilance, particularly at major crossings such as Trinagar in Kailali and Gadda Chowki in Kanchanpur. Security personnel are conducting strict verification of identification documents, along with detailed questioning and information gathering from individuals deemed suspicious. Security agencies have received intelligence indicating that some individuals may attempt to enter Nepal using forged documents while posing as laborers. With ongoing administrative campaigns in India, authorities believe the likelihood of such movements has risen. Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal had recently inspected the Srinagar border to review the checking procedures and overall security arrangements. Assistant Chief District Officer Kiran Joshi said patrols have been increased along the 101-kilometer open border in Kailali to prevent any unauthorized crossing. The Nagdhunga Malekhu Road section, located in the central region of Nepal and forming part of the major 3-1 highway connecting Kathmandu with eastern hills, is to be partially closed for 1 week due to ongoing upgrading works. The road project has announced that vehicular movement will be suspended for 5 hours daily from 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. between December 10 and 16. Traffic will be halted at People Mode from Nagdhunga and Pokhoribhir area, affecting commuters travelling between Kathmandu and eastern districts. The project authorities have urged motorists to use alternative routes during the closure period. Small and medium-sized vehicles may take the Sitapaila Bhimdhunga Ramkot Dharke road section. Additional detours include the routes Samakhusi, Tokha Chahare, Galchi and Jarekhet Trishuli Ghat Besi Bridge. The upgrading work on the Nagdhunga Nobise section of the 3-1 highway is in its final stage after recent blacktopping. The under-construction wall of Soilung of Nepal's eastern district of Dolakha has quickly become a popular spot for tourists, attracting increasing numbers of both domestic and international visitors. Located on the scenic Soilung Bridge, the site offers panoramic views of the Himalayas and the region's natural beauty, making it an appealing destination for sightseeing and photography. The project is jointly financed by the federal government and local municipality with 49.4 million Nepali rupees, which is approximately $380,000. It has already been invested for a 500-meter section. The full plan aims to construct a 1-kilometer long wall stretching from Kalapani to Dafe Dhunga. The Bagmati province government has also contributed 18 million Nepali rupees to support the initiative. The infrastructure is being developed with the goal of promoting Soilung as an international tourism destination, reflecting Nepal's broader strategy to create distinctive attractions that showcase its natural landscapes and cultural heritage. And we'll go for yet another short break here. Coming up next are international updates and sports news. Thousands of civilians along the Thailand-Cambodia border are fleeing after an escalation of violence between the two countries. A Thai military spokesperson said Air Force jets bombed Cambodian military positions after a Thai soldier was killed in an exchange of fire along the disputed border. Cambodia has said that 4 civilians were killed in Thai army gunfire in its northern border provinces of Pria Vihir and Odar Meanche. Both sides have accused each other of starting the violence, which is the most serious confrontation between the two countries since they agreed to a ceasefire back in July. Before a truce took effect, 43 people were killed and around 300,000 displaced on both sides of the border during 5 days of combat between Thailand and Cambodia. Meanwhile, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who helped broker that deal, has warned the renewed clashes risk unraveling the careful work that has gone into stabilizing relations between the two neighbors. Now, Ukraine's President Zelensky will hold talks in London later today with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The leaders will discuss the latest peace plan aimed at ending the war in Ukraine, drafted during talks between Ukrainian and U.S. officials in Florida last week. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump claimed Zelensky's negotiators loved the latest plan, adding it was a bit disappointed that President Zelensky had yet to read the proposal.
few hours ago. His people love it, but he hasn't. Russia's fine with it. Russia, I guess, would rather have the whole country when you think of it. But Russia is, I believe, fine with it, but I'm not sure that Zelensky's fine with it. His people love it.
As Trump made his comments, Zelensky said he would be briefed by his negotiators, adding some issues can only be discussed in person.
Тиждень будуть консультації з європейськими лідерами. Передусім безпекові питання, підтримка для нашої стійкості, пакети підтримки для нашого захисту, передусім ППО, довгострокове фінансування для України. Звісно, ми будемо говорити про спільний погляд, спільні позиції у перемогу.
China has strongly urged Japan to immediately stop its dangerous moves of harassing China's normal military exercise and training, and halt all irresponsible disinformation and political manipulation that mislead the international community. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun made the comments on Monday in response to a relevant query on the remarks made by Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi at an emergency press conference on the early morning of December 7. Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Guo reiterated Beijing's stance following Japan's accusation that a Chinese vessel had illuminated a Japanese aircraft with radar. Guo said China's training exercises in the area were lawful and routine, noting that activating such radar during carrier-based aircraft drills is standard international practice. He accused Japanese fighter jets of entering China's training zone without authorization and conducting close-in reconnaissance, calling Japan's claims false and politically motivated. China has lodged a formal protest and urged Japan to stop what it described as dangerous interference and irresponsible hype. Benin's President Patrice Talon appeared on state television on Tuesday to calm public concerns after what authorities described as an attempted military coup earlier in the day. Speaking in a brief but confident address on state broadcaster Benin TV, Talon urged citizens to remain calm and trust in the country's security forces. He also said the situation is completely under control, the president said, adding that those involved in the unrest had been swiftly contained and that investigations were already underway. State media reported heightened security around key government institutions, while residents in parts of the capital noted an increased military presence. Government officials said essential services were operating normally and emphasized that there was no ongoing threat to public safety. More international news after this short break here on NTV World Primetime News. Stay with us. The United Nations sharply criticized what it described as growing global apathy toward widespread human suffering as it unveiled its 2026 humanitarian assistance appeal. This year's appeal is notably narrower in scope, with UN agencies forced to limit operations amid severe funding shortfalls. UN officials warned that escalating conflicts, climate-driven disasters and economic crises are leaving tens of millions in urgent need, yet donor contributions have declined to their lowest levels in years. The funding gaps have already led to ration cuts, suspended programs and the downsizing of critical relief efforts in several crisis-hit regions. Launching the appeal, humanitarian leaders urged the international community to reverse the trend, stressing that underfunding will translate directly into preventable deaths and deepening instability. They called on governments, institutions and private donors to renew commitments to the world's most vulnerable populations, warning that without greater support, 2026 may see the largest unmet humanitarian needs in over a decade. Now, crowds filled Umayyad Square in central Damascus as Syrians mark the first anniversary of the ouster of longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad, an event that many in the country view as a turning point after years of conflict. Families, students and supporters of the transitional authorities waved flags, carried banners calling for unity and chanted slogans celebrating what they described as the rebirth of the nation. The square, adorned with lights and music, became the focal point of nationwide commemorations. Speakers from the transitional government addressed the crowd, praising the resilience of Syrians and pledging continued efforts toward political stability, reconstruction and national reconciliation. Security forces maintained a visible but relaxed presence as festivities continued into the evening, highlighting the symbolic significance of the moment for many Syrians eager to turn the page on decades of authoritarian rule. Time now for sports update. Real Madrid suffered a surprising 2-0 defeat to Celta Vigo in La Liga, finishing the match with 9 players and increasing pressure on manager Xabi Alonso. Substitute Williard Sweetberg scored his first league goal to give Celta the lead before Real were reduced to 10 men after Fran Garcia received 2 quick yellow cards. The hosts were left with 9 men in stoppage time when Alvaro Carreras was also sent off. Sweetberg added a second goal after the dismissal as Real collapsed late in the match. It marked Celta Vigo's first La Liga win over Real Madrid since 2014. The result leaves Real 4 points behind Barcelona, having won only 1 of their last 5 league games. French distance runner Jimmy Gressier claimed a decisive victory at Geneva Escalade race, completing the 7.323-kilometer course in just over 20 minutes. His performance placed him a full 14 seconds ahead of the course record previously set in 2022 by Switzerland's Dominic Lobalu, marking one of the most impressive finishes in the event's recent history. Gressier broke away from the leading pack early on and maintained a strong pace through the winding streets of Geneva's Old Town, cheered on by thousands of spectators lining the course. Organizers hailed his commanding win as a highlight of this year's edition of the city's premier road race, which attracts elite athletes and recreational runners from across Europe. The French athlete's record-beating run cements his growing reputation as one of Europe's top middle and long-distance competitors. Organizers expect his performance to inspire a highly competitive field in future editions of the event. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Four Nepalese among 25 killed in a fire at an Indian nightclub in tourist resort region of Goa. Electrical firecrackers believed to have sparked the blaze. Nepal's Election Commission allocates election symbols to political parties for March 5 election, 107 symbols to be used. 17th National Human Rights Magna Meet commences in Nepal's federal capital Kathmandu, aims to reinforce commitments to Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Security significantly tightened along several Nepal-India border points in Surat Pashchim province following concerns over potential illegal entries into Nepal. Thousands of civilians along Thailand-Cambodia border flee amid escalating violence in the most serious confrontation between the two countries in recent time. And Real Madrid falls to a shock defeat against Celta Vigo in La Liga. Real now 4 points behind leaders Barcelona. And that is all for NTV World Primetime News for now. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest update from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board. Region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Buddha Nilkantha is one of Nepal's most sacred and historic pilgrimage sites. Located at the southern base of Shivapuri Hill, just north of the Kathmandu Valley, this temple complex has long served as a peaceful place where devotees come to seek faith and spiritual connection. At its center lies the extraordinary statue of Lord Vishnu, known here as Jal Narayan. This massive stone figure, half submerged in a sacred pond, shows Vishnu reclining on the coils of Sheshnag, the king of serpents. Resting on the cosmic ocean, this form of Buddha Nilkantha is believed to date back to the Lichavi period, showing the artistic and cultural depth of ancient Nepal. The 5-meter-long black stone idol lies gracefully on the serpent bed, holding the conch, chakra, mace, and lotus, symbols of protection, cosmic order, and divinity. According to legend, a farmer and his wife discovered the statue while ploughing their field. Their plough struck stone, and the idol is said to have bled. Shocked, the villagers gathered and uncovered the figure with their hands. Afraid they had committed a sin, the farmers apologized to the god for disturbing the idol. Stories say that Lord Vishnu then appeared before the people as Narayan in forms similar to those worshipped in Badrinath and Kedarnath. This is believed to be the origin of the name Nilakantha.
किसानले हाम्रो खलोमा जहाँ खन्यौं त्यहीबाट रगत आइरहेको छ भन्ने कुराहरु चाहिँ फैलिए अनि गाउँका किसानहरु जो खेतमा काम गरिरहेका थिए ती सबै जम्मा भएर हातको माध्यमले खन्दै जाँदाखेरि यो भगवानको दिव्यमान विग्रह प्राकट्य भयो प्राकट्य भइसकेपछि तिनी किसानलाई बडा चिन्ता भयो चिन्तित भए मैले त ठूलो अपराध गरेछु भगवान यहाँ हुनुहुँदो रहेछ मलाई थाहा थिएन र भगवानसँग एकदम अनुनय विनय गर्न थाले रुन कराउन लागे साक्षात हेर्दाखेरि भगवान चाहिँ सामान्य रूपमा सामान्य दृष्टिले हेर्दाखेरि नारायणको रूपमा देखिनुहुन्छ तर भगवान चाहिँ बद्रीनाथ र केदारनाथजीको स्वरूपमा आउनु भएको अनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ पूर्णता दिनको लागि नाम चाहिँ उनको नाम नीलकण्ठ थियो त्यही भएर भगवानले तिम्रो नाम र मेरो नाम प्रसिद्धि गर भनेपछि नीलकण्ठ भनेर चाहिँ नाम रहने भयो.
Although open to the sky, the temple is an important example of traditional Nepali architecture, simple, symmetrical and symbolic. The area also serves as a gurukul, offering teachings in Sanskrit, Vedas and classical forms of worship.
Surrounding the temple are peepal trees valued for their religious, cultural, and environmental importance. They provide shade and a sense of calm to the space. At the northern entrance are the idols of Tridev and Tridevi, Shiva, Saraswati and Ganesh. They symbolize power, knowledge and auspicious beginnings. At the center stands a statue of Hanuman, representing strength, devotion, and loyalty. Every morning from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m., priests perform the daily ritual, bathing the statue, offering fresh clothes, flowers, incense, and holy water. The sounds of conch shells, bells, and chanting create a devotional atmosphere.
I have deep faith in Buddha Nilkantha, which is why I come here often. Every visit brings me a sense of peace and comfort.
Today, Buddha Nilkantha stands not only as a religious site but also as a cultural heritage treasure. The government, local communities and devotees continue to work together to protect and preserve it for future generations.
In the natural splendor, the silver-like peaks or the Himalayas glisten. Cradling a pond filled with milk in its lap, the Numbur Himal gleams. The Dudkunda, meaning a milk pond in Nepal's northeastern district of Solukhumbu, is truly the gateway to the paradise. The Numbur, Katang and Karyalung mountains seem to smile at all times. Adorned with a garland of colorful flowers, the Dudkunda is overflowing as if filled with milk. The very sight defines nature at its best. Feels as if the Numbur mountain is giving motherly affection, holding the lake in its lap. The beauty is so serene and virgin that one fears not to stain it by touching. Indeed, Dudkunda is nature at its purest form. Located at Solu Dudkunda municipality, Taksindu, the natural paradise draws many visitors. No matter how many words are spent describing it, they all feel inadequate upon reaching there. The name itself is fulfilling and equally sacred.
हजारौं नरनारीहरू चाहिँ तीर्थयात्रीहरू दुधकुण्डमा जानुभएको छ। म पनि पुगेर आएँ। दुधकुण्ड असाध्यै पवित्र स्थल, यो हिमाल काखमा रहेको तीर्थस्थल हो, पुण्यस्थल हो, देवस्थल हो र त्यहाँ चाहिँ एकचोटि पुग्नै पर्दो रहेछ। त्यहाँ पुगेर जुन आनन्दको अनुभूति हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ कहीँ पनि पाइँदैन भन्ने चाहिँ महसुस भयो।
आनन्द लाग्यो, मस्त लाग्यो। अनि यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ आएर तपस्या गरेर बस्नु जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई।
एकदमै राम्रो लाग्यो हैन, प्रकृतिले दिएको रमणीय तीर्थस्थल हैन, जो कोही पनि एकचोटि चाहिँ यहाँ आएर एकचोटि भ्रमण गरेर दर्शन गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्यो।
Situated at an altitude of 4,531 meters above the sea level, Dudkunda is a sacred pilgrimage site of culture and nature. It feels like nature has blessed this place, and culturally, it has bound all castes and ethnicities in a thread of unity. There are various legends and sayings about Dudkunda. One argument is that the pond was formed during the creation of the Himalayas and was discovered by local sheep and yak herders. According to another legend, in ancient times, a yak would go to a stone where the pond is located and offer its milk every day. Later, the place was found to be a pond filled with milk, leading to its name, Dudkunda. This has also led to the belief that gods and goddesses reside here. There are 3 different routes to reach Dudkunda. One route is through Salleri, Faplu, Taksindu and Sasrabeni. Another route goes via Lukla, the gateway to the Everest, through Nuntala, Taksindu and Sahasrabeni. Nature has truly blessed the Solu Dudkunda municipality. Truly, just like the majestic Mount Everest, Dudkunda has the potential to be the destination for everyone in the days to come. It is a thread of unity among all castes and ethnicities. Just like the holy water of Dudkunda, it will become a pure and excellent destination.
The first space is your home. The second space is your work or school.
Oh, very good.
And the third space? It is a place for your social life to actually unfold.
क्यापिटल सिटीहरु चाहिँ मान्छेहरु चाहिँ आफ्नो लाइफमा आफ्नो डे टु डे लाइफमा यति धेरै बिजी भइसकेका हुन्छ कि उनीहरु एकदमै आइसोलेटेड भइसकेका हुन्छन् के सो यसबाट चाहिँ लाइक टु गेट ओभर इट अनि एक्सप्लोर गरेर आफूलाई फ्रेश गराउनको लागि हैन त्यसको लागि चाहिँ इट्स रियली एसेन्शियल.
In many parts of the Western world, third spaces look like cafes, libraries, pubs, and so on. We have those too in Nepal. But historically, we have always done it a little differently.
म चाहिँ यो नजिकै बस्ने भएको भएर म यो ठाउँमा अक्सर आइरहन्छु हैन. मलाई यो पब्लिक प्लेसहरु सार्वजनिक ठाउँहरु एकदमै मन पर्छ मलाई चाहिँ. अनि अब काठमाडौँ आफै पनि साँगुरो छ हैन. हामीसँग थोरै मात्रै पब्लिक स्पेसहरु छ. त्यसमध्ये बसन्तपुरको यो सार्वजनिक स्थल चाहिँ एकदमै मलाई लाग्छ काठमाडौँ भित्रको क्राउडमा पनि अलिकति रमाइलो गर्नलाई आफ्नो फ्यामिलीसँग टाइम स्पेन्ड गर्नलाई अनि अलिकति फ्रेश भएर बसौँ अलिकति हावा खाएर बसौँ भन्ने हो भने यो ठाउँ चाहिँ हाम्रो वर्ल्ड हेरिटेजमा भएको साइटहरु हेर्दै हामी मजाले रमाउन सक्छौँ गफ गर्न सक्छौँ.
The term third space comes from sociologist Ray Oldenburg's 1989 book The Great Good Place. He described it as public space outside of your home or work where you can exist socially and build connections. But in Nepal, the idea of a third space has existed for centuries.
नेपालको सन्दर्भमा हेर्यो भने पनि हामी 16औं शताब्दीमा मल्ल राजाहरूले चाहिँ यसलाई क्रिएट गरेको पाउँछौं. तर त्यो भन्दा अगाडि पनि लिच्छवीकालीन हेर्यो भने पनि यो स्पेसहरु चाहिँ क्रिएसन गरेको देखिन्छ. किनभने काठमाडौँ दरबार स्क्वायरमा हेर्यो भने एउटा चाहिँ के छ भने स्पिरिचुअली पनि लिएको छ. त्यहाँ शिव पार्वती मन्दिरहरु छ भने हनुमान ढोका छ. त्यस्तै गरेर नसाल चोक छ दरबारको लागि. त्यस्तै गरिकन कुमारीको पनि त्यही छ. यो जम्मैले हामी के देख्छौं भने यो थर्ड स्पेस चाहिँ हामी अहिले मात्रै हैन कि परम्परागत देखि नै पाइन्छ. बिहान पख चाहिँ किसानहरुले ताजा तरकारी ल्याउने पनि भेट्छौं. अनि अहिले पनि कुरा छ फ्रेश सब्जीहरु खान्छ भने बिहान यो थर्ड स्पेसमा जाने भन्छ. अहिले पनि हामी हेर्यो भने यो दरबार स्क्वायरको वरिपरि तरकारी.
The third space does not have to be something high-tech or carefully curated. It just needs to be accessible enough for people to visit, relax, and connect. Third spaces are where people come together, talk, and feel like a part of something bigger, communal. In the hustle and bustle of a city like Kathmandu, they offer what many of us crave: a connection, a pause, a sense of belonging.
Gap. What do you need to do? There are a lot of things. Invest in infrastructure, like healthcare we talked about. We need to improve the infrastructure of education. We need to continue to provide support to educators. With this recent change of federalism, there has again been the gap created where the school teachers feel there's lack of support system now than it used to be in the past, which is very unfortunate.
Hello there, welcome to Geopod. South Asia is home to a fifth of humanity, yet remains one of the least integrated regions in the world. For 4 decades, SAARC has carried the promise of cooperation, dialogue, and shared progress, but also the weight of political divisions and unanswered expectations. In this maiden episode of Geopod on NTV World, we look at SAARC's journey, its challenges, and the road ahead, especially as it marks the 40 years since the adoption of the SAARC.
Mutual administrative assistance on customs matter, avoidance of double taxation, mutual administrative assistance on tax matters, establishment of SAARC Food Bank, agreement on the trade services, establishment of SAARC Seed Bank, mutual agreement on the recognition of the conformity assessment, rapid response to the natural disaster, framework agreement on energy cooperation. These are very important, as you would agree with me. And then moreover, we also had a lot of memorandum and convention like declaration also on the protocol on the field of terrorism, drug control, child welfare, environment, natural disaster, criminal matters, trafficking of women and children, and above all the SAARC Charter. So we have so many important instruments in place in the SARC process, which were very important for the success of SARC. So that's why I am really optimistic that still we have, based on this foundation, we can build and go ahead. We must be quite happy that we have been able to come to understanding with among all countries on a consensus basis on all these instruments that we have. So the shortcomings or the frustration, if you say, that we could have achieved much more than what we have now. That is in short I can tell you.
Right. I mean, a part of SARC's mandate certainly, it was built on a foundational optimism, which is so very reflective on what you've just shared, and even the spirit that you carry so far, right? Cooperation free from bilateral tensions, I believe, also was one of the mandates that were to be included. But reality has often been, more complicated than what was envisioned back then 40 years ago. So in this context, Your Excellency, the Charter envisioned cooperation almost unburdened by bilateral disputes. Yet, geopolitical tensions have very visibly constrained SARC's collective potential. Do you think the Charter still reflects the region's political and economic realities, or is it time to reimagine SARC's foundational assumption?
Thank you. This is a very important question I face everywhere, and this is a difficult question to answer also, because actually over the last 2 years I have given a lot of thoughts about this issue, that is this charter self-contained or it needs some kind of new reflections to be put into. I actually found that this charter had been drafted very well. I mean, given all the geopolitical reality and the reality on the ground in our region, I think there cannot be any better say foundational instrument in South Asia. Now the point is whether we are following in true sense the commitments and the desires that we have made 40 years ago. That is a question you can always ask anyone, in the SARC or in the region. But as far as the charter is bilateral issues, we can still go ahead. It is up to our leadership to decide when to go ahead. They are also quite, I must say that, quite competent in their position, having a lot of experience, and they know when to give us a signal to go ahead. So I'm still very much optimistic, because the amount of resilience and the goodwill that I have seen in each and every member countries, I don't see any reason to be frustrated on this. Only thing is, this is a temporary phenomena we are passing through. We have to have little patience to come out of this situation.
If you could shed light, is SARC structurally dependent on political harmony, or rather than designed to manage conflict?
No, rather I should say that it is designed. It is also, there is inbuilt design in the SARC Charter to manage the member states, or with 2 or more member states. In that case, they can also sometimes consider the extended neighbors in that forum. There is no harm for that. So this can be complementary to each other. Yeah, I don't see there is any challenge in this. Rather, if we can work in a harmony with other regional and sub-regional organizations, we can make faster development in the SARC region.
So could you shed a little more light on how SARC can maintain its central role at a time when external actors, or in your very own terminology, extended actors are increasingly shaping, South Asia's strategic choices? How does SARC maintain its central role?
Now, I think if we are united in our commitment that we have made 40 years ago, I don't think there any kind of say global situation, of course, will affect all countries. There is no denial of the fact that because we are so interconnected now globally to each other. So anything happen to our extended neighborhood or even beyond the region will directly or indirectly affect us. So having said that, I think if we are fully aware of the potentials that we have within the region, and if we sincerely work to get the benefit out of those, I think SAARC is still the best answer.
Now let's turn to the economic front, Your Excellency, an area or a domain where the region holds great promises because it's one of the most rapidly rising regions in the world. Yet the delivery has been far below the potential. Intra-SAARC trade, if you look at the figures, well below 6%, which is again one of the lowest in the entire world. What structural or political barriers are creating or holding SAARC back?
You are absolutely right that the intra-regional trade in SAARC is really quite low, which is between 5 and 6%, and the potential, as you have said, is tremendous. Currently, the intra-regional trade between SAARC is around 20 odd billion, around 23 billion or so. But according to a World Bank estimate, if we can remove only few small barriers in the SAARC process, it can grow to almost 67%. Not 67, 67 billion, from 23 billion to 67 billion in 5 years. That means it will be almost tripled. So there, I think, if we keep aside all the, say, contentious issues and go ahead and give importance to the trade, I think that would be the best way to go ahead.
With the world reorganizing the supply chains, Your Excellency, can SAARC seize the opportunity to becoming a competitive regional hub? What are the prospect areas that you see?
Yes, those global scenarios, especially in the trade regime, is, I think, indirectly bringing an opportunity for our SAARC region to think about the trade within the region. So since we are facing challenge of having trade with the West due to the new tariff rules, especially in the United States, I think it is a time for us to rethink and also redesign our plan in the SAARC and increase the SAARC intra-SAARC trade. I think this can be taken as an opportunity. What we are seeing in the other region, like in our extended neighbor, the ASEAN is doing that way, and they are trying to utilize their strength within the region, and China is also trying to have strengthen their trade partnership with the ASEAN and others. I think this is also a big opportunity for us for increasing the intra-regional trade and the trade with the Eastern our strategy within ourselves, which we are doing actually. Through the Thimphu Statement of Climate Change, the SAARC Secretariat had arranged in last 2 years several capacity building and also initiatives. And then those are enhance the capacity of SAARC member states, assess the viability of institutions of SAARC Climate Fund, and also frame a regional response to the transboundary air pollution. So we are working at the expert level to draw a plan for the region, so that in course of time it can be voiced in the international forum like COPs and other climate related initiatives.
Mm-hmm. So directly or indirectly related with climate change or the vulnerability that this phenomena brings around is migration, and I think this is one of the major they say it cuts both ways, but many see it as a major issue facing the South Asian region. That's migration, right? So millions of South Asians are at the moment migrating within and beyond the region. Demographic shifts are really reshaping economies and societies inside South Asia already, having a lot of repercussions and long-term effects. Could SAARC envision a framework, Your Excellency, for safe, legal and mutually beneficial mobility?
Yes, actually, in the recent initiatives of SAARC, I think leaders have also discussed about the safe and orderly migration, which is, of course, regarding the migration of the SAARC member countries' nationals to the outside world. So there is scope for further cooperation in this. But if you talk about the intra-regional migration, I don't know exactly what is the number. I don't think it is too big, and those are quite temporary because of some situations arises in some of the countries for political reasons.
Is SAARC even thinking about incorporating, in pursuing any sort of efforts to this effect?
Yes, it is very much there in the SAARC agenda.
Okay. So let me move on to your own institutional sphere, Your Excellency. Critics of, let me quote them, often say that the Secretariat lacks teeth, meaning, you have to function under limited resources, limited autonomy, and limited mandate. That's what the critics have been on and off saying, right? So what reforms do you believe are essential for the SAARC to deliver real impact in the next decade?
You see, reform is always an ongoing process. So SAARC Secretariat has also made a lot of, very strong contribution in the SAARC's 40 years of journey. So since we are not
precedented episodes, just a quick recall across Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, recently we witnessed a generational jolt, right? Youth-led mobilizations which strongly demanded accountability, transparency, and a dismantling of the entrenched political cultures, quote unquote. Do you see this generational awakening, as they call it, Gen Z awakening, as a disruptive force, or do you see it as a democratic correction?
I see in both ways. I think we, in the SAARC, we have given enough importance to the youth, children, and the women. So if we continue to follow up with those.
So how does institutions like SAARC, engage with a generation that organizes in real time and demands results with urgency?
Yes, we actually, from the SAARC, especially from the SAARC Secretariat, we always wait for the guidance and from our leaders. So I definitely expect that.
Hesitation and reflects the aspirations of 1.8 billion people living here. What would it be?
Okay, actually it's 10 years down the line. 10 years is quite a long time. I don't expect that situation will remain same in 10 years. There will be a lot of changes, and change for good. Definitely, I'm quite optimistic, quite sure about it. So in 10 years, there will be at least 3 Secretary General after me on the SAARC. So I'm sure they will also have the opportunity to work for the SAARC 2.0, as you have just mentioned. There, I will give special focus on the trade. If we can materialize the SAFTA in its true spirit, I think the situation, especially the economic situation, will in the region will take a dramatic shift, as I said, from 20.
The Nam was born in Lumbini. It lies in the western part of Nepal in Rupandehi districts of the Lumbini zone.
Lumbini has been protected under the world cultural archaeologist Professor Kenzo Tange. The project was initiated in the year 1978, and the remaining 5 are rectangular in shape. There is an ancient Mayadevi idol showing the birth of Lord Buddha inside the temple. This idol is also known as the birth idol. The remains inside the temple date back from 5th century BC to the 7th century BC. Marker stone, alias birth stone, is placed safe above a Maurya period brick inside a deep room. This clearly depicts the exact place where Lord Buddha was delivered. This stone is around 25 steps north of the Holy Land. Of different size and shape collected from various excavations are protected in the southeast, northeast and western direction of the Mayadevi temple. On close examination of the temple, the tradition and technology of Maurya dynasty is revealed. Some monasteries are constructed using the remains of Lord Buddha, while some other incorporates the remains of his followers, and few others have been constructed in Buddha's reminiscence. These monasteries depict the then art, custom, religion and tradition. In the northern side of the Holy Garden, towards the center, lies the eternal peace flame, the peace bell and a 3. Similarly, most of the western plots have been occupied with built in traditional Japanese design. The upper part of this pagoda holds metallic artifacts exhibiting the birth of Lord Buddha. Lumbini Museum and Lumbini International Research Center are other important places to visit once one reaches Lumbini. These buildings, constructed in pagoda style, portray an architectural masterpiece in themselves. Inside Lumbini Museum, the archaeological remains found during the excavation of Lumbini area are preserved inside a large hall. One can easily gather information about the birthplace of Lord Buddha and the then contemporary society and culture exploring these heritages. A number of hotels, lodges. In the year 1898 AD, Indian archaeologist P.C. Mukherjee, following the description of some others OBC. Devadaha, that lies in Bhawanipur of Rupandehi, is said to be the maternal home of Siddhartha Gautama. Inscriptions say that Siddhartha Gautama spent 7 years of his childhood in Devadaha. Also, it is believed that he, upon attaining enlightenment, paid a visit to Devadaha. Devadaha is also popularly regarded as the maternal home of Queen Maya Devi, Queen Prajapati and Princess Yasodhara. 10 idols are established in a single row in the eastern wall. However, the structure of all other idols besides one of the sun god in the center is unclear. This place, serving as an open museum, still needs a rigorous research and study to explore more about Kolia Kingdom. Ramgram Monastery has been constructed in the sidelines of Jharahi River towards 4 kilometers southeast of Parasi of Nawalparasi district. 7 meters in height, this monastery was constructed, establishing one metallic remains of Lord Buddha in its base. This monastery is one among the 8 monasteries constructed worldwide with the metallic remains in their base. This monastery was constructed upon the order of the king of Ramgram. He was the 8th king to receive the remains of Lord Buddha. Buddhist religious texts say that King Ashoka was in his mission of collecting remains of Lord Buddha from all 8 monasteries to construct the 84,000 stupas. But he was not allowed to extort the remains of Lord Buddha from Ramgram Monastery. Around 9 kilometers north from Tilaurakot lies a pond named Sagarwa or Lambu Sagar. The pond has high significance with regard to its archaeological value. This pond is popularly recognized as the spot where Koshal rural king Naresh Birudhak killed the thousands of Shakyas at the same time during the 5th century BC. Inscriptions have it that this pond extends 1,059 feet towards the length and 225 feet towards the breadth and was discovered in 1895 AD. However, only few remains and a mark of the pond can be traced here at present. Gotihawa is renowned as the birthplace of Manushi Krakuchandra Buddha. It is also said that Krakuchandra Buddha met his father at the very place after attaining nirvana. Debris of Ashoka pillar, ancient well, bricks and other remains can be retrieved in the buried form from here. Major Wada and P.C. Mukherjee excavated Gotihawa in 1895 AD and mentioned that Krakuchanda Buddha was born here. Araurakot is an ancient town situated 8 kilometers northeast of Taulihawa. Araurakot is regarded as the location of Kanak Muni Buddha. But scientific research is necessary to trace further facts of this town. Meanwhile, manuscripts have it that Niglihawa, 7 kilometers far in the northern side of Taulihawa, is the birthplace of Kanak Muni Buddha. It is the same place where he got enlightenment. They also say that archaeologist Dr. Fuhara discovered inscriptions in ancient stupas at this very place. In the western side of Nigli Sagar, one of the Ashoka pillars can be seen in 2 pieces. In an inscription written in Brahmi script, Pali language, it is mentioned that King Ashoka erected this pillar when he reached Kapil Vastu. When he reached Kapil Vastu Lumbini during the 3rd century BC. King Ashoka was said to be in pilgrimage. These pillars, 15 feet long, have engraved figure of peacock in one of the pillar and
Thailand has launched airstrikes on Cambodia, with both sides spreading blame for renewed fighting on their disputed border that has killed 4 Cambodian civilians and a Thai soldier. Around 35,000 people in Thailand have been evacuated from border areas. 5 days of combat between Thailand and Cambodia earlier this year killed 43 people and displaced around 300,000 on both sides of the border before a truce took effect. But last month, Thailand paused a follow-on deal backed by US President Donald Trump to wind down hostilities, saying a landmine blast at the border had wounded several soldiers. Since then, Cambodian and Thai officials have reported frequent clashes along their frontier, which reignited Sunday and Monday. Cambodia's information minister said at least 4 Cambodian civilians were killed in the Thai attacks on Monday, including a woman who died when a shell hit in Phra Bihar province. At least 1,157 families have been evacuated to safety. Cambodia accused Thailand of firing multiple assaults with tanks. Thailand, on the other side, claims it had launched airstrikes against its neighbor in an act of self-defense. The Thai army accused Cambodian forces of firing BM-21 rockets towards civilian areas in Buriram province, with no casualties reported. The United Nations sharply criticized what it described as a growing global apathy towards widespread human suffering as it unveiled its 2026 humanitarian assistance appeal. This year's appeal is notably narrower in scope, with UN agencies forced to limit operations amid severe funding cuts. UN officials warned that escalating conflicts, climate-driven disasters, and economic crises are leaving tens of thousands in urgent need. Yet, donor contributions have declined to their lowest levels in years. The funding gaps have already led to ration cuts, suspended programs, and the downsizing of critical relief efforts in several crisis-hit regions. Launching the appeal, humanitarian leaders urged the international community to reverse the trend, stressing that underfunding will translate directly into preventable deaths and deepening instability. They called on governments, institutions, and private donors to renew commitments to the world's most vulnerable populations, warning that without greater support, 2026 may see the largest unmet humanitarian needs in over a decade.
I can bear witness to, offer testimony of, the ferocity and the intensity of the killing.
Bangladeshi police have begun the exhumation of what they say is a mass grave believed to contain the remains of around 114 unidentified people linked to the violent upheaval that authorities claim contributed to the downfall of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina during the 2024 unrest. The site, located on the outskirts of a rural district, has been sealed up as forensic teams, investigators, and human rights observers work under tight security. Officials say the exhumation aims to identify the victims and determine the circumstances of their deaths, a process that could take months due to the scale and condition of the site. Families of missing persons have gathered near the cordoned area, hoping for answers after more than a year of uncertainty. Rights groups have called for full transparency, urging the government to ensure that any findings contribute to an independent investigation into the events surrounding the uprising. For many in Bangladesh, the dig marks a somber step towards reckoning with one of the most turbulent and contested chapters in the country's recent political history. In a significant diplomatic development, Iran has returned 50 American nationals to the United States. The move comes amid ongoing negotiations and international pressure surrounding bilateral relations and humanitarian concerns. Officials on both sides noted the return as a positive step, emphasizing the importance of dialogue and cooperation in resolving sensitive issues. The Americans who had been detained in Iran for various reasons were released safely and welcomed back by U.S. authorities. While details about the circumstances of the detention remain limited, the repatriation is expected to ease tensions and could pave the way for further diplomatic engagement between the two countries.
از این اتباع ایرانی به ایران باز خواهند گشت.
In a state of Jharkhand's scarred mining belt, long associated with hazardous speed, polluted air, and chronic power shortages, is witnessing a quiet but powerful transformation led by women armed not with machinery but with solar lamps. For decades, families in the cold regions have relied on kerosene lanterns, living homes shrouded in smoke, and children struggling to study after dusk. Now, women's cooperatives trained by grassroots energy groups are assembling, repairing, and distributing solar lamps that provide clean, reliable light to hundreds of households. Many of women once dependent on the unstable income from the informal mining say the shift to solar has opened new doors. The impact is already visible. School children can study longer, small shops stay open late, and families save money previously spent on expensive fuel. Community leaders report that the lamps also reduce fire hazards and indoor pollution, persistent risk in mining communities. China has made significant progress in wildland conservation during 2021 to 2025, with most of the key species effectively protected, according to the National Forestry and Grassland Administration. As one of the countries with the greatest plant diversity in the world, China has taken measures to protect 65% of higher plant communities and 80% of nationally key protected wild plants in the 5 years. 300 endangered species have been reintroduced to the wild. Additionally, more than 300 habitat conservation sites for rare and endangered plants were established outside nature reserves, significantly improving habitat integrity and connectivity. More than 100 species of extremely small population wild plants have undergone rescue and conservation. So far, the main facility of China's National Plant Resource has now been established with a designed shortage capacity of 70,000 species. It is expected to coordinate with the national parks to build a new framework for biodiversity protection in the future. A painting by Auguste Renoir that was looted from a Jewish art dealer during the World War II has sold at auction in Paris for 230,000 euros, rising to just over 300,000 euros. The small canvas serves as a draft for the artist's later work, who was a woman. The artwork was originally confiscated during the Nazi occupation before eventually being located and returned to the successors of its original owner, a Jewish art dealer targeted during the war. Its sale marks another notable instance of a legendary artwork re-entering the market following decades of research and legal effort. The auction house noted strong interest from collectors given both the painting's artistic value and its historical significance. In Turkey's Kemalya district, renowned wingsuit and base jump athlete Cengiz Kozak delivered a breathtaking performance with a daring jump from the approximately 550-meter high canyon, one of the deepest and most dramatic canyons in the world. Kozak launched himself into the void from the midpoint of a specially installed steel line stretched between the canyon walls, creating a heart-stopping moment for onlookers. The jump, carried out from about 500 meters above the canyon floor, left spectators holding their breath. Using a custom steel cable measuring 550 meters in height and 700 meters in length, Kozak executed a flawless base jump, soaring through the narrow rock formations of the Karanlık Canyon. After an impressive flight, he touched down safely at a designated landing zone inside the canyon. The stage was electric at Cape Town's iconic Victoria and Alfred waterfront as the finalists of the undisputed breakdance World Cup went head-to-head in a high-octane battle for glory. Dancers from around the globe brought their A-game, showcasing jaw-dropping power moves, intricate footwork, and explosive freezes in front of a roaring crowd. The competition was not just about style, it was a fierce fight for coveted qualification spots in the 2026 finals in Tokyo, where the world's best B-boys and B-girls will collide on the ultimate stage. Amid the intense battles, three-time world champion India once again proved why they are forced to be reckoned with, securing their place in the Tokyo finals with a performance that combined flawless technique, creativity, and undeniable stage presence. With Tokyo on the horizon, anticipation is building as fans and dancers alike look forward to the next chapter in this global dance showdown. Where only the most innovative and daring performers will claim the title of the undisputed world champion. Hundreds of people donned in festive red and white outfits, transforming the slopes into a sea of Father Christmases and St. Nicholases, descended on the renowned Swiss ski resort to celebrate the start of the winter season. The event, a playful and joyful spectacle, saw participants carving through the snow, waving to into cheering crowds and spreading holiday cheer well before the season's first snowfalls. From traditional Santa hats to full-length beards and bells, the skiers brought the spirit of Christmas to the mountains, blending the thrill of winter sports with a festive celebration. The lively gathering not only marked the official opening of the ski season, but also created a magical, almost storybook-like scene on the pristine slopes of the ski resort.
When I talked about remittance, how we receive a huge chunk of it, but we're not being able to properly utilize it so that we could materialize it into something productive. How do you see this whole thing?
Do you think any person who is in Gulf country, earning money, sending money to this country, feels proud of sending that money here? Maybe he does, because he or she does, because they are able to take care of their families. But it could be converted into a sense where you say that your contribution has helped this country develop so much. We have created this infrastructure, we have created this development initiative, and so you take that ownership. And wherever you are, whichever part of the world you are in, whatever contribution you have made, if you feel like, oh, my contribution is actually, in fact, wherever I am, it is contributing towards development of my country, that would be much better. And so there can be some creative and innovative ways of utilizing that remittance, and also proper communication of how it is being used to those people who are contributing is equally important, I think.
Nestled in the hills of western Nepal, Tansin, the headquarters of Palpa, was once famous for a unique craft, the Palpali Karwa, a traditional handmade bronze water jar. Nepal's iconic water jar, crafted by Newar artisans since the Rana regime, is traditionally used for drinking and serving liquids, featuring intricate hand arts.
कालीगर उत्पादन गर्नलाई त यसको लागि उपाय ट्रेनिङै हो यहाँ घरले दिनु पर्यो या नगरपालिकाले दिनु पर्यो ट्रेनिङ खोलाएको नखोलेको नि हैन एक दुईले खोलेको नि हो एकजना मान्छे ट्रेनिङ लिन आउन त यसको सबभन्दा समस्या छ नि आज बनाएर आज पैसा पाइन्छ के यसमा.
Unfortunately, it is becoming memory and the production is declining due to cheap machine-made alternatives, raw material shortages and high import duties. Handcrafted by the Newar community, it was more than a household item, a symbol of culture, skill and local pride. Until the early 1980s, nearly 30 workshops flourished here, providing livelihood to dozens of artisans supporting their families. The industry not only brought prosperity to the local Newar community, but also helped Palpa to recognize as a center of fine craftsmanship, creating a single handcrafted karwa. Water jar is no small feat. Creating a single handcrafted karwa, water jar, is no small feat. It takes 25 to 30 days of meticulous work. In Bara district reparted, implementing a range of disability-focused initiatives. A wide range of programs and strategies aimed at promoting the inclusion, accessibility and empowerment of persons with disabilities in all aspects of society. Ganga Prasad Wagle, president of the Nepal Disabled Service Association, highlighted local authorities have become key partners in advancing services for differently abled people. A health camp offered free medical checkup to 552 people with disabilities. Medical checkup at the doorstep for those unable to attend the camp also was available. In Bara, about 12,000 people with disabilities still need ongoing support in healthcare, education, and social inclusion.
In a twist shaped by social movements and public expression, the same instruments once central to weddings and celebrations are finding new life, not in celebration but in protest. Across towns and villages, the thunderous beats of the kartal, the sharp call of the damaha, the resonant tones of the kamko, and the haunting melodies of the shahanai and narsingha baja now rise above crowds during rallies and assemblies. What was once a symbol of ritual has become a rallying cry.
कटिबद्ध आत्मा चाहिँ टिम बनाउनको लागि म तयारी छु मैले 11 जनाको टिम मैले जम्मा पनि पारेको छु तर आर्थिक अवस्थाले गर्दाखेरि मैले त्यो काम पूरा गर्न मैले सकेको छैन सरकारबाट केही अलिकति सहयोग र बाजाको सहयोग भयो भने त्यो टिम बनाएर एक देशमा भिडाउँछु भन्ने भावना मैले लिएको छु.
In these moments, the music breathes energy into demonstrations, transforming ordinary gatherings into charged atmospheres filled with hope, frustration, and solidarity. Traditionally, Panchabaja carried the cultural identity of Nepal, an expression of religion, heritage, and community. But as weddings and festivals adopt modern entertainment, the instruments have slowly lost their place in everyday life. Despite the symbolic power of these rhythms, conservation efforts remain limited. Without sustained support, the melodies risk fading even as they continue to echo in streets and plazas.
In the eastern hills of Nepal, the celebration of Chasok Tangnam is gaining new momentum. The festival, rooted in the Limbu or Yakthung community, marks a time of gratitude and renewal as families offer grains to their ancestors and honor the harvest season. Historically, a ritual tied to agricultural life, Chasok is believed to have begun when early communities first stored their harvests. The Yalang or rice dance is said to have emerged from these celebrations, symbolizing prosperity and collective joy. Today, the festival has evolved into a vibrant display of cultural pride. Households prepare traditional foods, don ancestral attire, and engage in rituals that showcase the richness of Limbu heritage. Music and dance remain set to uphold their heritage.
यसरी यो मैले चोरी पालन व्यवसाय गर्नु मुख्य उद्देश्य भनेको आम्दानी आय आर्जन नै हो र अहिले विदेश गएका युवा साथीहरूलाई चाहिँ मैले यो पनि भन्न चाहन्छु कि यसरी हामीले नेपालमै रहेर व्यवसाय गरे तापनि हामीले यसबाट आम्दानी लिन सकिन्छ र आत्मसन्तुष्टि पनि हुन्छ.
Yak and Chauri products, tails, wool and fibers are transformed into ropes, bags and handicrafts, providing additional income. Yaks also serve practical roles, from ploughing fields to carrying loads. In a country where millions seek opportunities abroad, Manang offers a rare example. Young people sustaining themselves at home by preserving a centuries-old livelihood.
What would be an ideal step-by-step thing that we could do to make sure all our financial activities of the government and everything is transparent and that we deal with corruption?
It is our collective responsibility, right? It is not going to be, when we say step-by-step, what may easily come to our mind is, okay, have policy in place, enforce it, right? Have maybe a stronger punishment mechanism, and that's going to work. Of course it will. Well, that needs to happen. But then there's more steps that we need to take if we really want to get into that.
Dai Lake in Karnali province is a geographically remote district, yet rich with untapped potential for tourism. Stepping into Dai Lake, celebrated as a treasure trove of Khas art, culture and heritage, brings a unique sense of joy. Journey begins amid its natural beauty, leading us toward Mahabur Rural Municipality. As we leave the mid-hill highway, the terrain becomes challenging, with hilly, muddy roads demanding patience and skill. Long lines of vehicles crawl carefully along the cliffs, reflecting both the difficulty of the route and the enduring devotion of Mahabhu Dham. Many travelers choose to continue on foot, advancing step by step toward their destination. Passing through Channa, Dasarathi, Okharbanz, Bhavsaini, Noli, and Unipata, pilgrims ascend the slopes toward Lisne before finally reaching Mahabhu Patan. Pilgrims from Dailek and nearby districts often arrive late at night, having begun their journey the previous day. The path to Mahabhu Dham is thrilling, adventurous, and breathtaking, made even more dramatic by the steady rain, drifting fog, and steep inclines. Yet the journey itself feels uniquely rewarding. Mahabhu Lake or Mahabhu Dham, located within Mahabhu Rural Municipality, is a remarkable place of natural beauty, religious significance, and cultural heritage. Situated at an altitude of 4,200 meters, the area is adorned with emerald lakes, grazing flocks of sheep and goats, and a sky that dances with Himalayan mist.
Of travelers. We traveled together to Limi of Namka, among the 7 rural municipalities of the district. It was almost dusk, but our destination was still at some distance. So we increased our pace, along with the local children accompanying us. We are thankful to these kids, without whom we would not have been able to know some of the very well-known places on the way. Almost 8:30 in the evening, we were still struggling to find the house where we were supposed to spend the night. Now our team was no more intact, as all had their own arrangements in small groups. We had no option but to find a place to rest for the night. We were overwhelmed by the humility and warmth of the local people. They offered a bunch of unknown travelers food and accommodation with open heart. This reminded us of the slogan, "Guest is God," in real terms. Not the most affluent of the societies, but very welcoming at heart. In need, but have the humility. Poverty-ridden, but full of humanity. We salute the rural folks who mess around the year in this inhospitable terrain for survival. The next morning, we all get together. Our next destination was Kermi. The whistling sound of Karnali flowing down somewhere, the rocky hills and the small trails like ropes attached in these hills. Risky and dangerous. Not the best of conditions for trekking, but that's where the thrill is. That's where the adventure is. The waterfalls and ponds on the way relieve us from our fatigue instantly. Chachara is one of the biggest waterfalls in this place. The soothing touch of the crystal clear water of the fall is refreshing. Our lunch was at Dade Kermi, where small tents were set up by the locals to serve food and some rest for travelers. The Chinese stoves used here are smokeless and must have eased the life of the rural folks to a larger extent. We had seen these types of stoves in Dharapuri as well. Before starting another long day of trek after lunch, we had a little rest here. Our journey to Limi is still a long way to finish. We also did not get any chance of hitchhiking as no vehicle was plying on the road due to landslide obstructions. Our journey was getting arduous by the hour, but we did not miss the chance to enjoy the natural wonder of the region. Agriculture and cattle are the main profession of the people here. People raise yaks in this rugged terrain, though they have to migrate in winter to find better grazing land locally called kharka for their prized possessions. We found herds of yaks at different places on the way. We even stopped at one of these grazing camps for a cup of tea. This place is called Lashin. The tea served here is special with ghee and salt added for extra energy in the cold temperature. No wonder some of us were enjoying this tea for the first time. To our great relief, we got the news that a goods-laden truck was heading towards Limi from Tibet of China. However, we still had some distance to cover to catch the truck. We all wanted to rush with the hope to reach there in time to get a lift. At the moment, we are at Chanso, where there is not enough place for our jumbo team to spend the night. Finally, we decided to spend the night in Chanso itself, as the way ahead was more difficult and riskier. Two families had set up their yak camps here and living in two tents. Our big team had to divide and accommodate in these two tents for the night. We squeezed in for the night anyhow. It's a beautiful morning with bright blue sky, surrounded by tall hills, waterfalls and the whistling Karnali. It was nothing less than a piece of heaven on earth. We mingled with the locals for some time.
गाह्रै छ पानी पनि यहाँ समस्या छ दाउरा पनि समस्या छ यहाँ गाह्रै छ गर्न त यस पुल पनि समस्या छ यहाँ नराम्रो ठाउँमा बसेको छ यहाँ चिसो ठाउँमा यस्तो समस्या छ नि।
यहाँ हामीसँग धेरै चुनौतीहरू पनि छ, जस्तै एक्सेसको कुरा गर्ने हो भने रोड राम्रो बनिसकेको छैन, अनि त्यसपछि तपाईँको सञ्चारहरू छैन, बाटोमा टी सपहरू छैन। त्यसपछि त्यही अनुसार जस्तै टुरिज्म व्यवसायको लागि चाहिएको तपाईँको के भन्छ यो के अरे ह्युमन रिसोर्सहरू पनि राम्रोसँग दक्ष छैन हैन।
We had to climb up to the altitude of 4,800 meters to reach Limi. We decided to travel on horses as we were too tired to walk now. We managed horses for our team and set out on our way. We stopped at a beautiful natural pond, locally known as Selima. No one has dared to measure the depth of this pond till date. No one is aware of the mathematics of this ancient natural lake. We also moved ahead with the enthusiasm as to why. No one knows it. 2 hours on the horseback, we arrive at Nyalul Langna at an altitude of 4,800 meters above sea level. Surrounded by white mountains and hills, we found 2 Chinese trucks ready to leave for Limi. It took some effort to climb onto these huge carriers. Around 100 people had boarded on each truck. The local people were also waiting for the truck to depart like we were. The gravelled road and overloaded trucks. The ride was not very comfortable, but we did not have much option either to move ahead. After around 5 hours rough ride, we arrived at Halji village of Limi. Three villages, Tili, Halji and Jang, were collectively called Limi. It was almost evening by the time we reached Halji. The sight of Karnali snaking between the hills, symmetrical houses, green meadows, and the hearty welcome of the locals relieved of our fatigue. Cattle, farming and trade were the main profession of the Denizens of Halji. Yak, growing uwa, a special grain used in making liquor, and traveling to and from Taklakut via Hilsa for trade is part of their life for the locals. Despite the beauty of this magical land, it's far away from tourism. Hardly 50 tourists from outside set their foot on this area every year. The millennium-old Halji monastery, built by Locha Warinche Samo, is the pride of this place. Monk Samo had built this monastery as the last of his 108 structures around the world. Monk Samo is believed to have died while constructing this monastery. The ancient heritage, at the risk of landslide, awaits preservation and promotion.
दायाँको त्यहाँ पहिरोको डर छ यहाँ हैन त्यहाँ बायाँको त्यही डोरीको दुख छ त्यही ढुङ्गाको धेरै दुख छ बिचमा खानु पाउनको पेटको दुख छ यहाँ धेरै आवश्यक छ त्यहाँ चाहिँ यहाँ गुम्बा विधानमा त्यही सबै ती पुरानो लिङ्ग मूर्तिको ती माटोमा लिगेर ती बिग्री जान्छ
We had the opportunity to see the local culture and lifestyle during our trek in Limi. What impressed us the most was the dress, including local bakhu, sonba, chino and quinoa bread. Mount Kailas and the Mansarovar in China are clearly visible from Lapcha of Limi. 7 to 8 hours of truck ride from Halji, we can reach there. We were very much eager to see the Mansarovar and Mount Kailas, so we went to Limi. But to our bad luck, the weather did not help us. We waited for some time for the weather to clear, but there was no sign whatsoever, and we returned disappointed. Had the weather been kind, this was the sight we would have been able to see. Our journey to Limi thus ended on a sad note. We head back to Simikot and Nepalganj and finally to Kathmandu. Back in Kathmandu, every scene and sight we saw on the way is coming back in flashback. Being in this place itself is a treat to the eyes and mind. You forget all the fatigue and physical pain once you reach in this oasis. Undoubtedly, Humla, bordering Mugu, Bajura, Bazan and China towards the north, is a piece of heaven on earth.
Dr. Koloni, as chair of AIN, you've spoken about regulatory frameworks that risk constraining the civil society. What, in your view, is the ideal balance between accountability and freedom of NGOs in Nepal?
The civil society organizations are given freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of advocacy, freedom of contributing into the legal process or lawmaking process in the country. So all of that. But at the same time, have a space for their self-regulatory mechanism. But at the same time, the organizations are accountable towards their own process, whether it is about auditing system, delivering impact on the areas that they have selected to work in.
By the king, Haridatta Varma happened to be 9th generations before Mandev. The time of Haridatta Varma is estimated as early as 325 AD. Gopal Raj Vansavali and the Changu inscription also mention it as Changu, a Newari word that refers to swing like hill. But the evidences show that this particular place was popular as Changu Narayan from the earliest time, and the same name exists in the society till present. This two-storied temple is of basic Nepalese design with possible emphasis given to masterful ornamentation. The temple may have passed through series of restoration. The present structure was probably constructed in the 17th century. Changu Narayan is regarded as one of the masterpieces of Nepalese temple architecture. The older elements have been incorporated during the restorations.
4 Nepalese among 25 killed in a fire at an Indian nightclub in tourist resort region of Goa. Electrical firecrackers believed to have sparked the blaze. SAARC marks 41st Charter Day amid regional uncertainty, political tensions and decade-long summit freeze limits cooperation. Pokhara Airport scandal exposes governance gap amid political turmoil. Leadership instability and cost irregularities fuel case. Nepal's far western district sees growing number of teenage mothers despite legal ban on child marriage. Health risks for young mothers and newborns remain severe. Thousands of civilians along Thailand-Cambodia border flee amid escalating violence in the most serious confrontation between the two countries in recent time. And Real Madrid falls to a shock defeat against Celta Vigo in La Liga. Real now 4 points behind leaders Barcelona. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. And now the news in detail. 4 Nepali citizens were among 25 people killed in a fire at a nightclub in Goa. Nepal's ambassador Shankar P. Sharma expressed deep sorrow over the tragedy. The remaining victims were Indian nationals, mostly staff and tourists. The fire broke out at a club in Arpora, reportedly triggered by electrical firecrackers. Most casualties occurred due to suffocation in the basement and kitchen areas after wooden structures ignited. Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant said 4 people have been arrested and ordered safety inspections of other nightclubs. Fires remain common in India due to poor building practices and weak enforcement of safety rules. South Asia marks a major milestone today as the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, celebrates its 41st Charter Day. Founded in 1985 to promote peace and regional cooperation, SAARC continues to highlight its mission of improving welfare, strengthening self-reliance and addressing challenges like poverty and climate change. However, the bloc has not held a summit since 2014 when leaders met in Kathmandu. The 2016 summit in Islamabad was cancelled and no further high-level meetings have taken place, reflecting ongoing political tensions that have slowed regional integration. Political instability and frequent changes in leadership have led to a greater number of officials being implicated in major financial irregularities. The corruption case involving Pokhara Regional International Airport, in which 5 former ministers and 10 former secretaries have been charged simultaneously, is a notable example. The case filed by the Commission for the Investigation of Abusive Authority, CIAA, highlights issues such as loan agreements with a Chinese company, rising construction costs, the use of substandard materials, and decisions to make hurried payments to contractors during the tenures of different ministers and secretaries. The airport, considered one of Nepal's national pride projects, was constructed at a cost of around 22 billion Nepali rupees, which is about $167 million. During construction, multiple irregularities reportedly occurred, including loan agreements with a Chinese company, unnecessary cost escalation, use of substandard materials, and rushed payments to contractors. These decisions were made during the tenures of different ministers and secretaries, a pattern that experts say is linked to the constant reshuffling of leadership within ministries. Child marriage remains widespread in several districts of Nepal's far western region. Although law stipulates that individuals must be at least 20 years old to marry, many young people in the region continue to wed below the legal age. The number of adolescent mothers is also high. Despite various government programs aimed at promoting safe motherhood, early pregnancies continue to pose serious health risks for both mothers and newborns. Specialists warn that giving birth at a young age increases the likelihood of complications threatening the well-being of both mother and the child. This and more we'll look into our issue of the day later in the bulletin today. Thousands of civilians along the Thailand-Cambodia border are fleeing after a surge in violence between the two nations. A Thai military spokesperson said Air Force jets bombed Cambodian positions following the death of a Thai soldier in a firefight. Cambodia reported that 4 civilians were killed by Thai army gunfire in Preah Vihear and Odar Menche provinces. Both sides accuse each other of triggering the escalation, marking the most serious confrontation since a ceasefire agreement in July. Prior to the truce, 43 people were killed and around 300,000 displaced during 5 days of fighting. Real Madrid suffered a surprising 2-0 defeat to Celta Vigo in La Liga, finishing the match with 9 players and increasing pressure on manager Xabi Alonso. Substitute Wilayat Swedenberg scored his first league goal to give Celta the lead before Real were reduced to 10 men after Fran Garcia received 2 quick yellow cards. The hosts were left with 9 men in stoppage time when Alvaro Carreras was also sent off. Swedenberg added a second goal after the dismissal as Real collapsed late in the match. It marked Celta Vigo's first La Liga win over Real Madrid since 2014. The result leaves Real 4 points behind Barcelona, having won only 1 of their last 5 league games. Now, experts and activists from over 20 countries have gathered in Kathmandu to confront the persistent discrimination surrounding menstruation. A 3-day global conference is set to culminate in the landmark Kathmandu Declaration on Dignified Menstruation. Our issue of the day after this short break. Do stay with us. You're watching NTV World. Welcome back to News Hour. The 3-day International Learning Conference on Dignified Menstruation kicked off in Kathmandu, bringing together experts, activists and policymakers from more than 20 countries. Held under the theme Reclaim Inherent Dignity, Equity and Inalienable Rights, the conference addresses ongoing menstrual discrimination and its impact on women and girls. The conference has drawn participants from a wide range of countries, including Benin, Bhutan, Bulgaria, Cameroon, Congo, France, Germany, Guinea, India, Italy, Mexico, Nepal, Nigeria, Pakistan, Spain, Togo, and the United States of America. The event will conclude with the adoption of the Kathmandu Declaration on Dignified Menstruation. As Nepal enters day 14 of the global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, the parallel observance of International Dignified Menstruation Day highlights a lesser acknowledged form of discrimination. Menstrual restrictions continue to influence the daily lives, freedoms and safety of millions of women and girls. Bijeta Bhandari takes a closer look.
From the last week of November till mid-December, we women rejoice in championing the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The 14th day of the activism, Monday, also coincides with International Dignified Menstruation Day. However, one of the major issues that women face is over their menstrual cycle in patriarchal societies like Nepal. The day aims at drawing attention on how menstrual discrimination can play a systemic role in reinforcing sexual and gender-based violence. A study based on the 2022 Nepal Demographic and Health Survey reveals a striking reality. 84.8% of women aged 15 to 49 who menstruated in the past year reported facing at least one menstrual restriction. These restrictions include bans on entering places of worship, limitations on cooking or household work, and being excluded from social interaction or daily family activities. The study also shows that harmful practices like taupadi, where menstruating women are banished to small sheds or huts, remain most prevalent in mid-western and far western regions of Nepal. Though illegal, the practice continues to pose risks to women's safety, health, dignity, and even taking their life. Menstrual restrictions are not isolated customs. They reflect deep structural inequalities, norms that control women's bodies and limit their freedoms, and also normalize exclusion. As Nepal marks day 14 of the 16-day campaign, today's focus on dignified menstruation is a reminder. Ending gender-based violence requires ending the stigma, exclusion, and harmful traditions tied to menstruation. Dignity, safety, and equal rights for every girl, woman, and menstruator remain essential to building a society free from violence. Bijata Bhandari with camera person Samir Thapa reporting for NTV World.
Nepal's Prime Minister Sushila Karki, the country's first female head of government, has issued a strong global call to end menstrual discrimination, describing it as a persistent and harmful form of gender-based violence. Giving message on Dignified Menstruation Day, Prime Minister Karki emphasized that menstruation is a natural biological process. She described it as a state of respect. Despite this, the Prime Minister noted menstruation continues to be burdened with silence, stigma, shyness and shame, and also discrimination across societies. As Nepal marks the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and observes International Dignified Menstruation Day, child marriage continues unabated in the far western province. Many girls in this region of Nepal become mothers before the legal age of 20. Experts say that early marriage and teenage pregnancy persist because deep-rooted gender discrimination, menstrual stigma, social habits and weak enforcement of laws continue to shape the lives of younger girls. Smithu Ghising prepares a report with the help of our Kailali stranger, Sitaram Ojha.
In Nepal, the law is clear. Marriage under the age of 20 is illegal, and arranging such marriages can lead up to 3 years in jail. However, in the far west, one of Nepal's least developed regions, poverty, low education, and deep-rooted social traditions continue to push many girls into marriage and early motherhood. At the Sethi Provincial Hospital, the main referral center of the region, 264 girls under 20 gave birth in just the first 4 months of the current fiscal year.
र जसमध्ये 20 वर्ष मुनिका महिलाहरू पनि सुत्केरी संस्थामा भएका छन् र 20 वर्ष मुनिका महिलाहरूको हकमा भन्नुपर्दाखेरि अझै पनि हाम्रो समुदायमा सानो उमेरमा बिहे गर्ने कारण भएकोले 20 वर्षका मुनिका महिलाहरू पनि अस्पतालमा सुत्केरी भएका छन्.
Across Sudur Paschim province, the pattern is similar. Government data shows 1,638 teenage mothers so far this year, about 12% of all births. The numbers have been steadily rising over the last 3 years despite government and NGO programs aimed at ending child marriage.
प्रदेशको एउटा समस्याको रूपमा रहेको कुरा हो यो 20 वर्ष मुनि त कानुनी रूपले पनि विवाह गर्न पाइदैन हैन बन्देज गरिएको छ 20 वर्ष पुगिसकेपछि मात्र केटा र केटीले विवाह गर्न पाउँछन् तर हामी यहाँ कस्तो छ भने खास गरी केही समुदायमा हैन खास गरी थारू समुदायमा राणा समुदायमा र केही पहाडी समुदायहरुमा पनि यो छिटो विवाह गर्ने भनेको मतलब चाहिँ 16 17 14 15 वर्ष हैन 13 14 वर्षमा विवाह गर्ने अध्ययन कामै छ यो त्यसमानाले त्यसका चुनौतीहरु त बढ्ने नै हो समुदायमा हामीले परिवारमा घर-घरमा शिक्षाको जरुरी छ र खास गरी विद्यालयहरुमा बालबालिकाहरुलाई किशोर किशोरीहरुलाई उहाँहरुलाई पनि हामीले चाहिँ शिक्षा दिनुपर्छ।
Doctors warn that early pregnancy can be life-threatening. Young mothers face higher risks of hemorrhage, malnutrition, complicated childbirth, and their newborns are more vulnerable to illness and death. Despite awareness campaigns, experts say the cycle continues because families lack economic security and alternatives. They say targeted education, better access to healthcare, and stronger enforcement of the law are essential to protect girls from early marriage and early motherhood.
Now, as SAARC marks its 41st Charter Day, the regional bloc reflects both its founding vision of cooperation and its long-stalled progress amid political tensions. With no summit held since 2014, the future of South Asian integration remains uncertain. That's our cover story of the day after this break. You're watching NTV World and this is News Hour. Today, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, celebrates its 41st Charter Day. Established in 1985 to promote peace and regional cooperation, SAARC continues to focus on improving welfare, strengthening self-reliance and addressing common challenges such as poverty and climate change. However, the bloc has not held a summit since 2014 when leaders met in Nepal's Kathmandu. The 2016 summit in Islamabad was cancelled and no further high-level meetings have taken place that reflects political tensions that have slowed regional integration. Nearly 4 decades after South Asia embraced the promise of regional cooperation, the vision that gave birth to SAARC stands at a critical crossroad. As the bloc turns 40, its enduring dream of unity faces tough questions about stalled progress, political rifts, and unrealized potential. Here's a report. Home to nearly a quarter of the world's population now, South Asia had embarked on a journey of regional cooperation nearly 4 decades ago, with high hopes of collaboration. 40 years down the line, numerous questions arise. Whether the regional body has ever reached near its goal to foster regional cooperation and collaboration. On December 8, 1985, leaders of the 7 South Asian nations gathered in Dhaka, Bangladesh to sign the charter, giving birth to the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC. As the regional body marks its 40th year, regional unity remains as relevant as ever, despite failing to deliver on the initial promises. Over 4 decades, SAARC has grown to include 8 member states: Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. The organization has worked to foster cooperation in trade, agriculture, education, health, and disaster management. Yet, SAARC's journey has not been without hurdles. Political rivalries and domestic challenges have often stalled progress, leaving many of its ambitious goals unrealized. One of the most common issues, cross-border terrorism and security threats, undermine trust among member states. The organization struggles to establish effective mechanisms to counter these issues. South Asia is one of the least economically integrated regions in the world. Intra-SAARC trade remains below 5% of total trade, far behind other regional blocs. SAARC's secretariat in Kathmandu has limited authority and resources. South Asia is highly vulnerable to floods, earthquakes, and climate impacts, but the regional framework for disaster management and implementation remain questionable. Emergence of other regional forums like BIMSTEC have challenged the relevance of the 4-decade-long regional body that has yet to convene since 2014 Kathmandu summit. Despite these setbacks, the spirit of cooperation continues to inspire hope for a more integrated South Asia. As SAARC turns 40, the question remains, can South Asia rise above its differences to fulfill the promise of shared prosperity? The answer lies in the collective will of its people and leaders. For now, the dream of regional unity endures. South Asia, home to nearly a quarter of the world's population, contributes only about 5% to global economy, and SAARC's progress remains limited after 40 years. Political tensions between India and Pakistan have overshadowed the regional bloc, keeping South Asia one of the least economically connected regions in the world. Virat Anupam brings more.
The South Asian subcontinent is home to nearly 25% of the global population, but the combined size of the economy is negligible at around 5%. Exclude India from the figures, the remaining 7 countries have 1.5% presence in global economy as per the World Bank data. Given one of the agendas of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (SAARC) to promote regional trade, the status remains largely immaterialized 40 years down the road. Increasing geopolitical tensions between two major stakeholders, India and Pakistan, is arguably overshadowing the regional organizations that was founded on this very day 40 years ago. The land area accommodated by the SAARC in the world is around 3%. In the last 40 years of SAARC's existence, it has been a least connected region in the world, with intra-regional trade just around 7%. The South Asian Free Trade Area, SAFTA, a trade agreement among SAARC member countries, was signed in 2004 and became effective from 2006. SAFTA covers around 1.6 billion people, making it one of the largest free trade areas globally. The aim of the agreement was to reduce tariffs and boosting regional economic integrations. Among the SAFTA provisions, 3 major economies of the subcontinent, India, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, had to reduce tariff to 20% by 2007. This never came into implementation as the political tension between the two major countries escalated around the same period. For countries like Nepal, SAFTA offers opportunities for preferential access to regional markets, though challenges remain in ensuring equitable benefits. SAARC's progress in the 40 years, according to analysts, can be gauged by the lack of direct land or air connectivity between Bhutan in Pakistan and Nepal in Pakistan. NTV World compilation by Virat Anupam.
On the occasion of 41st Charter Day, we asked SAARC officials and representatives of its regional bodies about the organization's relevance in the current context. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Charter envision cooperation.
Now, in terms of, disease control, I especially talk about the tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS. The relevance is more now than in the previous years, because when you see the funding landscape, in tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, the international commitment is going down. International resources is almost going to be stopped. Otherwise it has been drastically reduced. So now is the time for the SAARC Secretariat and SAARC to take a lead to raise fund or resources at the regional.
I think the history of SAARC, if you see longer time, what was the aim of that SAARC? So we are not having longer time SAARC summit, which I think will be taken in future with the efforts of all. Now this regional strategy which we were working on now from 2025 to 30 is going to be this strategy is going to come. But relevance will be perfect when our SAARC summit will take place.
So what we do actually in the SAARC Tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS Center, that we include all the SAARC member states as the 8 countries in this world to take the TB and HIV/AIDS programs. And we do the collaboration and coordination to end TB and HIV/AIDS endemic with the coordinated efforts. That is actually the objective of SAARC Tuberculosis Center.
So it's very relevant, and then it has a long history of engagement with the member states in different areas, particularly capacity building, for many intellectual engagement as well, and then definitely research areas, and to really strengthen the laboratory setups of the member countries. So this is very valuable, and then we have been continuing on that direction. And other areas that we can work is in future in other infectious diseases as well. When all the member states come together, we can achieve more.
In an exclusive conversation with the SAARC Secretary General Gholam Sarwar, we explore the organization's current relevance and the road ahead. The Secretary General acknowledged the prolonged summit gap, but stressed that SAARC's technical mechanisms and sectoral bodies continue to function, delivering cooperation in areas such as climate resilience, agriculture, education, and women's empowerment.
Charter envisioned cooperation almost unburdened by bilateral disputes. Yet, geopolitical tensions have very visibly constrained SAARC's collective potential. Do you think the Charter still reflects the region's political and economic realities, or is it time to reimagine SAARC's foundational assumption?
Thank you. This is a very important question I face everywhere, and this is a difficult question to answer also, because actually over the last 2 years I have given a lot of thoughts about this issue, that is this charter self-contained or it needs some kind of new reflections to be put into. I actually found that this charter had been drafted very well. I mean, given all the geopolitical reality and the reality on the ground in our region, I think there cannot be any better say foundational instrument in South Asia. Now the point is whether we are following in true sense the commitments and the desires that we have made 40 years ago. That is a question you can always ask anyone, in the SAARC or in the region. But as far as the charter is concerned, I think, yes, there is always room for improvement with the change of times. We can bring some new elements in the, say, our terms of reference, and how we can achieve the chartered goal. That can be also looked at. But I don't see much problem with the charter. It's the issue of our commitment.
In every SAARC conversation, Your Excellency, India-Pakistan tensions are the silent elephant in the room, right? So as a Secretary General of this entity, how do you engineer institutional momentum in a space where political constraints routinely overshadow regional consensus?
Thank you. Actually, after my took over, I have been to all the countries of the region, except Afghanistan, for conclusion.
Nepal government has decided to declare slain journalist Suresh Rajak as a martyr. Rajak had lost his life in course of reporting the Tinkune demonstrations of 28 March 2025. Minister for Communications and Information Technology Jagadish Khadil informed of the cabinet decision earlier today. Political instability and frequent leadership changes have contributed to rising financial irregularities, with the Pokhara Regional International Airport corruption case serving as a major example. 5 former ministers and 10 former secretaries have been charged over
अति धेरै करप्सन, त्यसैले हामीले एन्टी करप्सन मुभमेन्ट पनि चलाइरहेका छौं। तपाईले आजका मिडिया आउटलेटहरु हेर्नुस्, 5 जना पूर्व मन्त्रीहरु, 10 जना बेला-बेलाका सेक्रेटरीहरु लगायत 50 भन्दा बढी चाहिँ तपाईको भ्रष्टाचारको मुद्दामा प्रक्रिया गरेको आजको मिडिया आउटलेट हेर्नुस्। तपाईहरुलाई म जानकारी गराउन चाहन्छु, यहाँ धेरै इन्टरनेशनल कम्युनिटीको डेभलपमेन्ट पार्टनरहरु पनि हुनुहुन्छ। आई वुड लाइक टु शेयर कि हामीले यो 2 महिनाको अवधिमा more than 25 वटा big करप्सनका इस्युहरुलाई अहिले कानुनी दायरामा ल्याएर प्रक्रिया अगाडि बढाउँछ। यसरी अगाडि बढाउँछ। त्यसैले definitely zero tolerance for corruption. Definitely. And governance, good governance is in high priority of this government. And of course, election. एकदमै म्यान्डेटरी नै छ। यो पार्ट हुँदा त्यो पार्टमा हामी गइरहेका छौँ। I wish you all the best.
Nepal's Election Commission has set December 12 as the deadline for updating the voter list. The Commission has requested citizens to check the information published on its website and submit correction applications by this date if any errors are found. Spokesperson and Joint Secretary Naren Prasad Bhattarai said that the process of updating voter details collected from across the country until September 21, 2025 will be carried out during this period. The Commission has also allocated election symbols for the March 5, 2026 House of Representatives election, granting separate symbols to 102 parties and a joint symbol to 12 parties. Security has been tightened at several Nepal-India border points in Sudur Paschim province amid concerns over illegal entry. Authorities are increasing checks at major crossings such as Trinagar in Kailali and Gadda Chowki in Kanchanpur, verifying documents and questioning suspicious individuals. Intelligence suggests some may attempt to enter Nepal with forged papers. Home Minister Om Prakash Aryal recently inspected the Trinagar border, and patrols along the 101-kilometer open border in Kailali have been stepped up to prevent unauthorized crossings. We shall return with the international updates. For now, a quick recap of the headlines. Four Nepalese among 25 killed in a fire at an Indian nightclub in tourist resort region of Goa. Electrical firecrackers believed to have sparked the blaze. SAARC marks 41st Charter Day amid regional uncertainty, political tensions and decade-long summit freeze limits cooperation. Pokhara airport scandal exposes governance gaps amid political turmoil, leadership instability and cost irregularities fuel case involving former ministers and officials. Nepal's far western district sees growing number of teenage mothers despite legal ban on child marriage. Health risks for young mothers and newborns remain. Thousands of civilians along Thailand-Cambodia border flee amid escalating violence in the most serious confrontation in recent time. And Real Madrid falls to a shock defeat against Celta Vigo in La Liga. Real now 4 points behind leaders Barcelona. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Downing Street to discuss a new peace frameworks developed during recent talks between Ukrainian and US officials in Florida. The discussions come as international partners continue to seek avenues for ending the war, now in its third year, while maintaining support for Ukraine's sovereignty. Ahead of the talks, leaders reiterated their continued support for Ukraine and highlighted the need for decisive steps as the conflict shows no sign of abating. In a separate development, US President Donald Trump commented that Ukrainian negotiators were favorable toward the plan, but noted his disappointment that Zelensky had not reviewed the proposal yet. The remarks add to growing debate in international circles over possible pathways to peace and the future direction of negotiations. Crowds filled Umayyad Square in central Damascus as Syrians marked the first anniversary of the ouster of longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad, an event that many in the country view as a turning point after years of conflict. Families, students and supporters of the transitional authorities waved flags, carried banners calling for unity and chanted slogans celebrating what they described as the rebirth of the nation. The square, adorned with lights and music, became the focal point of nationwide commemorations. Speakers from the transitional government addressed the crowd, praising the resilience of Syrians and pledging continued efforts toward political stability, reconstruction and national reconciliation. Security forces maintained a visible but relaxed presence as festivities continued into the evening, highlighting the symbolic significance of the moment for many Syrians eager to turn the page on decades of authoritarian rule. We're going for a short break once again. Business news coming up next.
Nepal's stock market has entered another week of losses. The Nepal Stock Exchange, known as NEPSE, the country's only stock exchange, continued its downward trend for the second straight trading day this week. The NEPSE index fell 3.02 points today after a much sharper drop of 21.48 points on Sunday, bringing the benchmark to 2,606.67. More than 11 million shares of 331 companies changed hands, with total transactions worth over 4.6 billion Nepali rupees. That's about $35 million. The day's biggest loser was Support Microfinance, down 5.16%. And Nyadi Group Power Limited led the market in both trading volume and value, with transactions worth more than 558 million rupees. NEPSE continues to struggle amid weak investor confidence and market volatility. US President Donald Trump has flagged potential concerns over Netflix's planned $72 billion deal to buy Warner Brothers Discovery's movie studio and popular HBO streaming networks. At an event in Washington, D.C. on Sunday, he said Netflix has a big market share and the firm's combined size could be a problem. On Friday, the two companies said they had reached an agreement to bring Warner Brothers franchises like Harry Potter and Game of Thrones to Netflix, creating a new media giant. The planned deal, which has raised concerns among some in the industry, is yet to be approved by competition authorities. Launched in 1997 as a postal DVD rental business, Netflix has grown to become the world's largest subscription streaming service. The deal, the biggest the film industry has seen in a long time, would cement its #1 position. Under the agreement, several global entertainment franchises such as Looney Tunes, The Matrix, and Lord of the Rings would move to Netflix. The deal is expected to be completed after Warner Bros. Splits its business in the second half of 2026. Europe risks losing ground in the global artificial intelligence race, a Nobel Prize-winning economist Philippe Aghion warned during his visit to Stockholm to receive the prestigious award. Aghion emphasized that current policies allowing a small number of dominant tech companies to control the market, which he says stifles competition and prevents new entrants from innovating. The economist called for urgent policy interventions to promote a more competitive environment in AI, arguing that supporting smaller companies and fostering innovation is crucial for Europe to maintain its technological and economic leadership. He stressed that without decisive action, the continent could lag behind the US and Asia in the rapidly advancing AI sector. US e-commerce giant Amazon announced its plan to set up its first global warehousing and distribution GWD facility in the tech hub of Shenzhen, South China's Guangdong province, in efforts to deliver Chinese products to global buyers faster. The GWD facility in Shenzhen, set to open to Chinese sellers in March 2026, will enable Chinese sellers to ship their goods to the Shenzhen warehouse to access a one-stop service encompassing warehousing, customs clearance, cross-border transportation, and global distribution. Chinese sellers on Amazon posted strong gains in the first 10 months of 2025, with sales up more than 15% in the US and Europe and over 30% in emerging markets.
And it's time now for a sports update. Mohamed Salah trained with his Liverpool teammates on Monday as the Premier League champions prepared for their upcoming UEFA Champions League fixture against Inter Milan. The session came just 2 days after the Egyptian forward delivered a dramatic public outburst, accusing the club of using him as a scapegoat for their poor domestic form. Salah, who was benched during the Liverpool's 3-3 draw with Leeds United on Saturday, told reporters afterward that his relationship with manager Arne Slot had broken down. The comments marked one of the most significant player-manager disputes in the club's recent history, and it raised fresh questions over Liverpool's direction this season. Despite the tension, Salah joined the squad's training drills, signalling that he remains part of the team's plans for the European encounter. Liverpool have struggled to find consistency in the Premier League, while their Champions League campaign remains a major focus. Time now for the weather updates first from across Nepal and then the world. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Four Nepalese among 25 killed in a fire at an Indian nightclub in tourist resort region of Goa. Electrical firecrackers believed to have sparked the blaze. SAARC marks 41st Charter Day amid regional uncertainty, political tensions and decade-long summit freeze limits cooperation. Pokhara airport scandal exposes governance gaps amid political turmoil, leadership instability and cost irregularities fuel case involving former ministers and officials. Nepal's far western district sees growing number of teenage mothers despite legal ban on child marriage. Health risks for young mothers and newborns remain. Thousands of civilians along Thailand-Cambodia border flee amid escalating violence in the most serious confrontation between the two countries in recent time. And Real Madrid falls to a shock defeat against Celta Vigo in La Liga. Real now 4 points behind leaders Barcelona. And that is all for the moment here on NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media pages and also visit our official website nepaltelevision.com for more news and information. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for joining us. Good night.